Recording in progress.
Right. Hi, this is, you bet. So I'm going to do a little UNN introduction. This is Kelly coming to you from Michiana for the United Network News. And we're meeting here in Michiana at my friend's yoga studio with Robert Cannellos.
Yes.
And Robert has been an architect in his career, and he has been involved with what's called earth shifts.
Mm-hmm.
And we got notification that he was coming through town, and I just had to meet him and hear about this fabulous experience that he has had as a human creator. He has been 5 years now on the road working mobily in his decked out van.
Yep.
And he's got a lot to share with us. So we're going to record this for UNN and then send us the questions. Tell us how you got started, first of all.
So what led to what got me started was wanting to let go of, get off the hamster wheel. You know, we're all on a hamster wheel, got certain things to do. And I was like, how do I stop this? And it really comes to coming back to the earth. How do I get to the point where I'm actually authentically feeling and experiencing everything I want and everything I'm doing without, I've got to pay the mortgage, I've got to go to this job for these hours that's literally sucking me dry. So I was like, how do I do this and get off that hamster wheel? So it took some courage, and it took a few instances of, I don't know what to call it. It was a psychic reading. It was a astrological reading, and it was a journey with plant medicine. They all said the same thing to me, and it was untether. Within a month, I got the same message. Untether. Wasn't that simple, but it was basically let go of where you live, which was South Florida at the time. So I lived in South Florida, and I got the message the third time, and I was like angry. I'm banging my hands. I'm like, wow. I had a really cool house in Delray Beach, Florida. And I said, I'm supposed to leave this security and let go, which is untether, let go. So that was 2018 that happened. Leading up to it, there was a lot. I mean, I've been a tree hugger all my childhood. I was raised by hippies in upstate New York. Went to Woodstock in 1969, the original one. And then just was always conscious of the environment. Then I became an architect, and then I was like, I can't just do this mindless building. So I went into green architecture and started learning LEED, which is Leadership in Environmental Education and Design. Have you anyone heard of that before? It's a certification system that commercial buildings use. So it got really popular in the early 2000s. Like from 2000 to 2010, it grew like multi times, and it became a really big thing. I did it for 10 years. I went to these things called the Green Build, and they moved around from different cities in the country. And the thing, you just watched it swarm. And then all of a sudden, the politicians got involved, and everyone was talking about green buildings. And it's led to the green movement. So the LEED certification was a way to certify a building like this when it was being built, that it had a lot of green issues based on points. And you could get like medals for the Olympics, silver, gold, bronze, platinum, for the amount of points you could get. So it became like a little bit of a race. So that was where it started. And then I started pulling back from that and said, this isn't it. There's more. There's got to be more. And then, so that steps into the untethered thing. And I just heard it. There was you want me to tell the story? We have time? Okay. So I was traveling in Ireland. I had tickets to Ireland. We got a hurricane, Florida, and it got canceled for a year. So I went back the year after. This is probably 2017. Or maybe early 2018, and just with 3 friends and a girl that was from Ireland gave us the tour. And I wanted to see sacred sites. So I study sacred architecture, sacred circles, Stonehenge, Peru, all the sacred buildings that create energy. And we went there, we were traveling, going through these sacred sites, and we went to a psychic. Her name was Mary Magdalene, a little tiny lady. And we had tea with her, and she'd take us in one by one to the back, and she'd say, pick crystals. So I picked crystals. She put my feet. She's like, put your bare feet in this bucket of crystals. And then she started reading the crystals that I picked. And she came to this thing where it was, I still have a recording of it, but I haven't listened to it. But it was beautiful because she talked about everything that was in my heart that hadn't come out yet. And she said, you need to untether if you want to get there. You need to let go. You need to trust the universe, trust spirit. So I did. I didn't yet. That was the first one. I came back, well, that was weird. And then someone sent me to an astrologer in Sedona. And this person did the most unique astrological reading on me ever. And they were telling me where, based on my astrological sign, I could go to be the most effective in my mission to help save and wake up people to the earth and start getting back to feeling who we are and why we're here. So then that reading went through, and all of a sudden it was like, and you need to untether to do this. And I'm like, oh no, here we go. So then the last one, can I say this? Is this published? It was a psychedelic plant medicine journey. And within the journey, we were making ayahuasca. My friends are shaman, and he said, do you want to help make ayahuasca? I was like, of course. And so we were pounding the vines in silence, and you break the bark off the vines, set the other stuff aside, and then he gets a certain weight of vine and leaf, and then he cooks it. And it cooks down for days and days and days. So after we pounded all the vine and got all the spices, like, would you like to drink? And I'm like, sure. I took a cup, and I went to a little hut and blindfolded myself. And I said I want to see my starship, actually. So I blindfolded myself, and all of a sudden this thing came out of me and unfolded. And it basically was a psychedelic version of my van. And it looked like a clownfish. It had big fins and colorful things on it. And I was like, whoa, I'm going to get pulled over in that. So come back to Earth from the ceremony. It was a beautiful ceremony and experience. Right after that, I was like, I'm supposed to untether and build a ship, a little crystal light ship, I called it. But it's a van. So all of a sudden I started researching. This is 2018. Van life was kind of happening, but not as big as it got. So there was a lot of stuff out there, and I found this one guy that was building vans, and I started chatting with him. And so in 2019, I sold my house, and I went, gulp, I'm going to let go, like I was told. And I started building my van. I rented an apartment for 3 months from a friend, or just a room, as I built my van every day. And then in April of 2019, I left. And I had no plan, no agenda, other than going to Arkansas and digging crystals, because I also work with crystals. I do crystal vortexes. And
all that on your website.
Yeah.
So you have to give us a quick little 411 on that.
Okay. You want me to back up yet? On that?
Yeah,
stay with the van?
Yeah, stay with the
Okay,
van.
'cause
What type of van did you start with?
A ProMaster 3500, just because it was easily available. It was the cheapest one I could get that had the size and the height that I wanted. So I bought that with some of the money I got from my house. Bought the van. I had already designed it on paper because I'm an architect, so I just drew it out and started elevating the interior and what it was going to look like, where's the sink. But I wanted it decked, so it was like off the grid house. So it's a tiny house on wheels, covered in solar, lithium batteries, propane tank tucked up under, water tank. So it's got propane heat, hot water, and everything. I can cook in there. I can sleep in there. I don't have to plug it in. It's got 1,000 watts of solar on the roof and 4 lithiums. Yeah. Shower, composting toilet. So it's literally, if you take a compact house or a tiny house and put it in the size of a van, and then you can move it. So that was where I took off in that in 2019.
So when we're done in here, we'll do a short.
Yeah, we'll do a little
outside,
tour.
if you don't mind. Yeah,
And it's also
okay.
on the website. I don't know if you've shared the website, thecrystalmagician.com.
Yeah, I think Rick was on the Earthships.
Yeah.
So he's changing. Here we go.
Okay.
Here we go.
So that in this This is a few years old. I haven't really updated it since I've been on the road much. I did the first year or two, but then COVID hit and I haven't touched it. But there's a tab in here for crystal vans, crystal earthships, which is, I was just diving into earthships. I mean, this came after. And then grids. So that's talking about the crystal grids. Now, just a quick side note on the crystal grids. That came through, I did a 10-day Vipassana, which is silent meditation. You put all your electronics away and you surrender for 10 days and 11 hours a day meditation, and it's hard. It's hard to quiet, to quiet the mind that much. But in the midst of the meditation, I learned how to work with crystals. And that's where I've been here before many times. Came through because all of a sudden I came out and I was like, I'm supposed to work with crystals. And I'm an architect. So my architect friends are like, whatever, dude. And I start laying crystals out in a grid on the floor. And I was like, this is how I do it. And I lay it out based on the dimensions of Stonehenge. So that's the sacred mandala circle that he's looking at right now. This explains it a bit. I've built over 400 grids. Yoga studios love me. When I come to a new town, I'll come do yoga and they'll say, what do you do? And I was like, well, one of the things I do is build crystal grids. So this helps finance my move around the earth. That's just one of the ways. So anyways, that explains the crystal grids. And the funny thing is that my van is named Crystal. She told me her name. Yeah, that's another. She did. Well, two of my friends, we sat together and meditated on it. And I said, "Do you get many names?" And they said, "Yeah, Crystal." And my friend said, "I'm hearing other names, Crystal, Sophia, Love." So that's actually my van's name. So of course, when I built her, it was loaded with crystals all around the perimeter. There's embedded crystal grids in the ceiling, inside of the insulation. There's a pyramid of crystals built into it. So it's vibrating. So all this stuff is like new, and I was just like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I surrender. So I leave in the van in 2019, start wandering. Like that's where it comes back to what was my only destination, that was Arkansas, to go mine crystals. I wanted to get a bucket of crystals for free.
Yeah.
and start working with the land. My goal was to start building crystal grids and opening grids on the land, because I'd had the crystal grids had been going on maybe 5 years before all this happened with the Untether. I just had started building these, and we open them. There's a ceremony to open them, and my friends I say, what do you want to create? And they ask for what they want to create. It's one of the 7 layers of the frequency I open. And then what they ask for, I'd start getting calls. Like, what's happening? And they're just like, everything that I'm asking for is coming in. It doesn't look exactly like I thought up here, but it's coming in. What is this? I said, I don't know. It came through in a meditation. And I just listened. So anyways, I'm kind of getting all over the place here. But that was the basis of it. I just said, I surrender. I'm going to go out. I want to build crystal grids. I'm a grid maker. That came through in meditation. I am supposed to build crystal grids to help bring in the 5th dimensional energies that we're already in. We're in the 5th dimension on the earth, but there's 3D happening at the same time, and 4D, which I would consider COVID, was 4D. Sliding, separation, okay?
The transition.
Yeah.
That's how
So pretty much we're playing in 3, 4, and 5 right now. My goal was to open 5 and help plant 5 on the ground.
Isn't it incredible how, again, when you hear your story, we all have a story during that same time period.
Yeah.
And we can all say, yeah, we all have been nudged through some degree of an awakening. And how interesting that you are actually working on ley lines, right? And energetic grids on the earth. I knew about these things, and I knew I should probably do something, but you're already doing it, and that just makes me happy.
I'm just one of us. There's a lot of people out there doing it. They're all over the world. Incredible. I just knew it was my calling. That's when you get quiet enough in meditation, the message comes through. When there's no distraction, you can literally hear what you're supposed to do. It happened for me. I don't know if everyone it happens for, but it's a way to get clear. That's why you teach meditation, right?
That's actually how my book came into being.
Oh, nice. Sweet. Okay, so I'm out driving, my little crystal van, and I wandered into Taos, New Mexico. So in architecture school, I'd always sketched the Taos Pueblo, which is the most ancient, intact Native American village. It's made of adobe, mud, and it's beautiful. So I'd sketched it in books, and then I wanted to go there and actually sketch it. So I'm there, and I did a little sketch on it, and I'm secretly putting crystals in the water and programming quartz with love, freedom, ascension, just words, because quartz repeats whatever you say to it. It's like a computer. And I put that in the water. I do that all the time too. Quartz repeating in the water. Water absorbs messages and imprints. So, yeah. So I've dove into this head first. So I'm in Taos doing my thing, and all of a sudden I get an idea, and I was inspired. I was like, oh yeah, the Earth ships, because I had heard about them in college from the 70s. I was in college in the 80s, and I'd seen them, and they were horrible. It was ugly. It didn't look like that. And so I was like, wow, I pulled it up, and it was 20 minutes away, so I just got my van and zoomed over there, and I walked into the visitor center and had a psychedelic experience. I walked in there, and I look around, and I was like, this is so cool. And you could see parts of where they had worked on it, where the tires were still showing, but then you saw all the plaster and the finished product, like on that website picture there. And I felt the building start to breathe, and I was like, well, no, here we go. And I felt like I was tripping, like someone had slipped some mushrooms or something to me. And the building was just, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is real architecture. This is connected to the earth. This is what I've been looking for. So I went over and talked to the guy that was behind the counter, the intern. And I said, how do I learn how to build these? And he said, there's an academy. You need to come for a month. I said, can I live in my van? He's like, of course. That's what I did. So I went to the Earthship Academy. This is probably it. I had signed up for it in 2019. We didn't get there till later 2020 because COVID did its thing, and then they had closed them down. New Mexico was pretty tight-locked. It's in Taos, New Mexico area. So I finally got out there on my second year on the road and did the Earthship Academy. And that was the pictures I was showing you, where we would learn in the classroom in the morning the basics of the Earthship, which I don't know if I put them on there, but it's on the Earthship Biotexture website. And the basics of the Earthship theory are food, creating photovoltaic, creating your own energy, clean water. So they rainwater harvest. The airships have 4 17,000-gallon cisterns. It's a very simple design. And so they harvest the rainwater. Garbage management's one of them because we pull about 1,000 tires out of the landfill to build the foundation of an Earthship, whether it be 4 loops, which is called a unity, or a big U shape like this. And you saw the pictures of us pounding the tires and bringing it up to 10 feet. A lot of work. So, and then they would teach us how to do the water filtration, how to do the bring in air through 20-foot long tubes that the air comes through the earth. So the Earthships are basically a U-shaped building of tires. And then we put 4 17,000-gallon cisterns. The roof slopes towards the cisterns. And before we build all this, we put in air venting tubes for every room. And then the electrical and the plumbing comes in, and then we backfill it. So the whole thing becomes an earth-bermed U-shaped building. Then we start to roof it. The roof is a simple sloped roof. You can see that's a 3D model of the tires coming up. The roof slopes back, comes to a gutter system to catch water systems with filters, send it down to the cisterns, and the 4 cisterns split the water till they're all full. Now, New Mexico is very dry, 7 inches of rain a year, so they need that much. I don't know how much rain you get here, but you figure out how many cisterns do I need based on how much water would I use in this house per month, how much rain do we get a month, what's the worst case scenario rain. It's kind of like sizing solar. How much energy do you use? How much battery bank do you need to sustain it through the dark? And then how many solar panels? So same thing with water. So these systems all work together, the garbage management, and then the last one is sewage. They handle their own sewage. So those are the principles, the energy, clean water. They make their own food because there are greenhouses inside the building included in it. Again, because they came from Taos. Taos is cold. I know it gets cold here too. So there's south-facing glass. The greenhouse is inside the south-facing glass. And then there's a glass wall. So you walk in entries in the greenhouse, but then there's glass walls with doors that go into your house. So you're not in the same room typically with all the plants because there's bugs and there's permaculture and there's all sorts of systems working in there. But the coolest part of the system is the water system. They use water 4 times before they send it back to the earth, which is awesome. They bring it in fresh it comes in as rainwater, fills the cisterns. The cisterns come into a filtration system, which we learned how to use. That was 1 or 2 days of the academy. Build the rainwater system. They showed it on the blackboard, and then they took us out on the patio and with a bucket of the pieces. They were like, build it. That's what I loved about the airship is we got to build it right away. I never did that in architecture school. Never built it right away. You have to get in the field and get your hands on it. So, we'd build the water system. So let me stay with that frame of mind. The cisterns come in, the water system in these buildings, the fresh water comes out of the tap in the kitchen and the shower and the sinks. Everything that's not a kitchen sink or a toilet gets recycled back and goes into the greenhouse. Interior greenhouse to feed the food that you're growing in your greenhouse. That has a filtration system, comes back in, flushes your toilets, and then the toilets and the kitchen sink go to the septic. And then the outside septic, because this is a dry desert, grows the shade trees. So that's the 4th use of the water. So water gets stretched out further than I'd ever done in any other kind of green building I did. I was just like, wow, that is so cool. So it's the greenest building I've ever done. And then the tires, pulling out the tires, like in Montana. I was in Montana the last 2 summers building one, and we went to it was unfortunate. They had all set up, and what the Earthship does is they put out a notification in the spring. These are the Earthships you can come work on. Excuse me. It'll be in, like this year, it's Flagstaff, Arizona. There's one I think it's in July or late June it starts, and it's for a month. And the students that come pay. They pay like $500, and then they show up for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, however long it is, and they work. So basically the labor pays the company to bring in the crew to teach them how to build with their hands. And people that come to these are all walks of life. There was a physicist from Portland in my group. There was a ballet dancer from Dallas. There's just, you would have never guessed how many people were there. A teacher, school teacher, and then of course carpenters, architects. We love this stuff. But everybody who wants to learn how to build their own house and touch all these things comes in and shows up, and they do it pretty much once a month all summer. So that's the academy. That's how you go learn how to build these. Whoa. Yeah, we just leave them up there. The mascot kitty. So that was a lot. I don't know if I should just pause here and say, does anyone have any questions?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, before you forget what I said.
I'll check in on Zoom. Anybody in here? Question. Amazing, right?
Yeah, I'm just like, I gotta get my hands.
Yeah.
I gotta dig into something.
Come to an academy. It's about $2,500 to do the academy, not including housing. I drive my housing, so I don't know how expensive the housing is, but when you're there and if you don't have housing, you live in an Earthship, because it's built in a community called the Greater World Community. You'd love that name, right? And those are all the Earthships. There's hundreds of them. And then there's other communities called Reach on a mountainside. And then there's other Earthship communities developing around the country. So it's about I think it was $2,500 you have to pay to attend, and plus your housing, and then you have to buy food. But it was one of the most wonderful experiences, and I just keep going back. I go back whenever there's a build that I can get to. I travel, and I'll wind up. I'll know when the build is, so I'll time my visit so I can get there during the build. And now I just show up, and I say, I know all the guys, so
Untethered.
I'm tethered. So I keep getting more and more experience. And then the grand scheme is that I get to help people. Like if you guys, that's why I said, do you have land? I advise people what kind of land to get, which you want to buy land that's out of a zone if you can, because the cities don't know what to do with these buildings. They'll try and regulate the water filtration. They'll make you put ultraviolet. That's what they did in Florida. They were trying to put ultraviolet systems on the rainwater harvesting and purple pipes on, which is a good idea anyways for the reused water, reused rainwater. But labeled, but also expensive equipment that you don't need to pay for typically on our ship because we have the filtration system. That's just the code. The code officials try and interpret the code for a building that's non-conforming. And then the solar, they give you problems with solar too. Like in Florida, they would make you hook up to FBL even though you didn't need it and put on a transfer switch. So if we had a hurricane, the power got knocked off, you could shut off your feed back. I was like, I didn't even want to hook up to the power line. Why did you make me hook up to the power line and then make me put in a very expensive transfer switch to shut it off? I was like, just leave me alone. So here's my advice to people looking for land. Agricultural land, AG land, typically you only have to grow one thing and offer it to the community, and that qualifies you for the agricultural restriction or whatever the permitting. Or you want to get, so it's AG land or unrestricted. So whenever I look at, because I've been looking at land as I've been traveling the country as well. And you want to, whenever I see land, I'll pull up the real estate agent. Can you tell me what the zoning is? Is it unrestricted or agricultural land? If it is, then we move forward. If no, then I keep looking. I haven't bought anything yet, but I want to. So if anyone here is interested in buying land, starting a community, that's the other thing is I'm all for starting communities of these kind of buildings where everyone comes together, builds the airship, and helps each other out. It's like a barn raising, but it's more like a tire pounding. It's hard work, but it's great work. And a community. And then, so I've helped a community start in Tennessee. I know a community in Florida that we've tried to get one going. We're still working on it to get the right people. But I created bylaws with the people in Tennessee of how to create an off-the-grid community, because there needs to be a board of directors that can weed out the people. There needs to be a vetting, because some people will say, oh, this sounds really cool. This is the way to go. Everyone loves off-the-grid communities, and then they'll build a house and put it on Airbnb, and then you got partiers coming. And so there needs to be a vetting process. There needs to be bylaws, not strict ones like you would get in an HOA, but things that say this is a special community that requires respect and not to be abused. And you can't have Airbnbs in here.
How many acres?
Well, I would say it depends on how many people, but 5 to 10 is great. 5 would be plenty. 10 is wonderful. It just depends. Huh? No, for a community.
For the whole thing.
And my one thing I would say is find a piece of land with water access. This is the prepper part. You want water flowing through your site or dig a well. You do have cisterns, but these buildings, you just want backup. So the land I've looked at, like the one in Tennessee, has a river running through it. The land in Florida was up near Lake County, where all the clear crystal lakes are.
Sure.
The northern part of Florida towards the center. There's thousands of clear water, fresh lakes. That's all, it's groundwater coming up.
Springs.
Yeah, so whenever you look at land, if you can find a parcel with raw water available running through it, that's ideal. And then, you might want to dig a well for backup water. But the airships are a great solution because they gather enough water for your individual needs. But the river and the well help the community needs. So in case someone's getting low on water, didn't plan well, left their faucet on for a month and left, whatever, drained their earthship or whatever. And it doesn't have to be earthships because I just, that's what sparked me into looking at this. There's other ways to do this. There's cob construction. There is, what are the other, hempcrete? Have you heard of?
Yeah.
I've heard a lot about that.
Yep. So all those things work.
That could be your crop too.
Yeah, that could be your crop. Exactly. And then in cold weather climates, I'm working with some people in Colorado. When I head to Boulder after, I'm going to Tulsa and then Boulder. There's a girl there that's also a van builder. So I helped build a van with her last year. But she's creating a conscious community. And I'm kind of an advisor. And I have bylaws and I have the expertise with the earthships. So that's my goal, is I want to work in harmony and help people get these things going. So we have an alternative. I'm looking for the new earth.
As are many.
Yes.
Are there any other questions? Because I think we're probably.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just went on.
No, it was perfect. We wanted to know all about you. Now we get a little touch of each of those. What you got, Rick?
We have a minute and a half left
Oh.
on this session.
Yep.
If you'd like, if you want to have some questions, I can just stop this and take a little break, and I'll start
Restart.
another
Zoom.
session.
Oh, another Zoom.
That's okay.
Yeah, well, I know Jim put his question in the chat, so we've answered that one, 5 to 10 acres.
I did want to ask about the crystals, just
Okay.
the grid in and of itself, and then also how you souped up your van, because I've actually contemplated making like a shower
Yeah.
that has crystals aligned, so when I'm taking a shower, but it's also in sunlight. I've
Yeah.
also considered doing it a bed, where the bed frame has crystals along the bottom,
Mhm.
and then that way when you're sleeping, you're charging your chakras as well. I was curious, like, what does that look like for you in your van? Like, how did you? Is there schematics to it, or?
No. Well, so that was the first van I built, the one that's outside that you guys can come see. I built 4 more since, and then I've also retrofitted buses for some people with solar and getting them at least 12-volt power in a bus so they can build it however they want. So the crystals in the bus, how did I do it? Because I build grids that are based on sacred geometry and spacing that comes from Stonehenge, they're typically a circle, but then I also built, I think we're out.
Yes, okay, we saw this.
Okay, so I built pyramid energy. I used the pyramids. I visited the pyramids in Giza. That was part of one of my quests, to visit all these sacred sites to figure out what is it that came up in meditation. And the pyramids of Giza, I mean, Egypt, the Giza pyramid plateau, that's a crystal grid. If you look at it from above, it actually looks like that, and it also looks like a circuit board from a computer. So the pyramids are in a line, and there's 3 pyramids, and if you look at it from the sky, there's something happening energetically with it. So this has all led me to, how do I study energy? How do I figure this out? And that opened the door to me feeling more energy as I'm going. Sometimes I'll stop and I'll feel negative energy, and I'll literally do a little ceremony or go put some crystals on the land. I've gone into volcanoes and put crystal grids in volcanoes. Mount Shasta on the side of Panther Meadow, I just opened
them to keep like vandals.
some, yeah. Like the ones I did in the volcano were probably this big quartz. I've done them in building sites when I was still doing construction in South Florida. I call it a gorilla grid. And we were building a condo, and in the ground floor they were building a kitchen. It was still dirt. And I went in there one morning early. I had 5 crystals in my pocket, and I had programmed them in my truck before I got in. I just whispered what I wanted them to repeat forever. And then I grabbed a little piece of rebar with my hard hat on, and I'm like, and I put 5, I measured out the circumference that I needed, and I just poked 5 equally spaced holes and then dropped the crystals in, and the next day they poured the concrete. So they didn't even know I did this.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff that makes me laugh, and
The crystal magician.
that's where the name came from. So the people in Delray Beach, the girls that I was friends with, and girls get the crystals more than guys. There's some guys who get it, but a lot of guys are like, if I can't see it, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
They need proof. They want mathematics. They want output. But women tend, because you feel your hearts are typically open quicker than men are. That's 98% of my clients that build crystal grids are women. They'll hear the story, like if I came to yoga, told you this story, there's a chance, probably a really good chance, you'd say, can you put one in my yoga studio? Of course I can. Yeah, or a guy that gets it, yeah. So that's where it comes from. So anyways, I built them in the van like that. I know the pyramid dimension, so I did a increment of the pyramid mathematics in my van. So I laid out a pyramid. I put a crystal grid circle around it, and the pyramid creates a vortex of energy. So does a crystal circle. Creates a vortex of energy. So I've got 2 vortexes working in my van. Then I went around the perimeter. So in the shower, I put rose quartz near the floor. I didn't really put them in the walls. I put rose quartz near the shower. I just used a lot of different types of crystals in there around the perimeter. And then even under my bed, I've got, why can't I think of the name? There's amethyst in the corners of my bed. There's pyrite. So it's just under the mattress, literally just under there. And then where my batteries are, because batteries emit EMF.
Yeah.
I can't think of the word. You know the crystals which crystal it is that blocks EMF? No.
Black one?
The black one. Huh?
Oh.
Obsidian?
No, but it's in that.
Tourmaline?
No, but keep going. People buy them and buy necklaces of it. No, keep going.
Charcoal?
Sounds like.
Oh.
No, why can't I think of it? Anyways, organite, which is man-made. Have you seen organite?
Yeah.
So that it also blocks EMF. So in my battery compartment, I've got this organite all over the place, blocking the EMFs from the batteries, so it doesn't come into my bed. Because my bed's right here, and the batteries are right here, so I needed to keep that energy from coming in and affecting my body.
Hashtag airplane mode.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I can't think of the black stone.
I have some too, and I can't remember.
Yeah, it's just right there, but I've been driving all
So
day.
much.
So you stick to quartz predominantly?
Nope.
No?
I use all kinds of, like if we did a crystal grid for you, I'd pull out, first we'd choose a number.
Okay.
So on my website, if you go to the crystal grid tab, it'll show you the numbers, and it goes through 3 through 12. They each have a spiritual meaning. It's basically based on numerology. Like
number?
3 is a pyramid. 3 has to do with stability. The pyramid is stable. You can't push a pyramid over. It's the most stable shape we have. Okay, so 3 has to do with stability, and then a bunch of other properties. So he's getting to it right there. There's a little video there that if you press that, it walks you through the process, how they're built, a little cartoon. But then it goes through number 3, and you can look at number 3 and read the properties of it. And 3, 4, 5 through 12. And then the first thing I ask someone who's interested is read this list. It's like a menu. Pick a number that resonates with what you really want to create in your life. What do you want to call in? Yoga studios tend to pick 8. Perfect balance, male, female. Okay. And then, not always. I mean, 11 is a great number. I think I have a 9 in my van. I have an 11, and I have a pyramid, so that's a 4.
I see 333 a lot.
Do you? That's a 9, actually, if you add them up. And 9 is the coolest number. Anything times 9 equals 9. 9 times 4 is 36. 3 plus 6 is 9. Right? So 9, anything times 9 comes back to 9. So it's one of those numbers that's like the wisest of all the numbers. It literally divides everything and brings it back.
I'm on the right track.
Yeah. So if you go to that website, you can read the numbers. It's on the tab for crystal grids. So you can see how the untether thing worked, because it was scary. I have to tell you, it was having a set income and that I want to get off the hamster wheel, and how do I do it? And then all those little nudges said, trust the universe. And I'm still trusting the universe, and it's still taking care of me. I haven't had to do anything. I work hard. Like when I go back to Florida in the winter, as soon as it snows on me a couple times, I'm like out. because I don't have a house. I'm in a box. It's a metal box. It radiates whatever temperature is outside. And I do have a heater in there, but I was in Tulsa 2 years ago, stuck there till mid-January. It was going down 10 degrees, and I was miserable. I was like, oh my God. Because it's a Florida van. I learned in Colorado how to design a van that keeps itself warmer and better insulated, and that my water pump won't freeze. But this is the original van, so I don't have those things in place. So it was interesting being in the cold. So my real goal is if I find a land, and if it's in a cold climate, I'll plan the build where, I'll put an advertisement out to everyone I know, anyone that wants to come learn how to build an airship. Come to this land at this time. I'll provide food. You can camp on the land if you want. There'll be a shower there. We'll have a kitchen so we can cook everyone can make some food for each other. And we'll build an airship, or at least get the foundation and the roof on it and dry it in. So I would have to, in a cold climate, obviously do it from typically April to November. And then that's what we did in Montana. We had to get it dried in by November, because then then you're out of business for a while. Yeah. Then you want to be inside the building and doing the packing out of the tire walls and creating those plaster and all the elements. All right. Any more questions? Yes.
I got stuck here on this custom grids page.
Okay.
And we can stay here for a while.
All right.
Trying to figure out what's going on here. And do you incorporate these crystal grids in your homes?
Yep.
That you're building?
Yep.
Or just the van that you build?
No, they go in people's homes. They go in homes, people's business. I've built them for almost every different type of job, person that's out there. I have a couple doctors with them in their office, which is amazing, because the doctors typically don't believe in crystal energy. They're more pharmaceutical. But I have this.
So can you make a portable crystal grid?
That's a great question. That's the only portable one I have is in my van. Mm-hmm. So I have built them. I don't think there's any pictures on there, but I've built them. So I have friends that moved a lot, and I would take a hoop that was the right size hoop, and then I'd have them pick a number, and then I would literally notch the hoop and hang the crystals from it. So the crystals hang in a circle on the ceiling, and they're spaced out based on the number you pick in a sacred geometry, perfectly spaced. And then they hang there, and then we open it, we activate it. So they want to stay there. Once it's open, it's literally dialed into your energy system. The ceremony I do with you, I'll say, let's activate water in your body, and I'll read something to you. Now, if you ever studied Dr. Emoto, the water gets imprinted, and he proved it. He showed it under the microscope. Positive words look like beautiful snowflakes. Yes. Negative words look like blotched cancerous cells. So water imprints. So I start the ceremony with we activate the water, and then I'll have you repeat with me, which is we're 72% water. So you speaking out loud that I'm activating the water element in my body, and you repeat it with me. And I have a script that I read that I wrote, and it literally activates the water element in you. And then so that's the inner temple, and then the outer temple would be the circle on the crystal grid. And then we literally pull from the earth. I activate the water element from the earth, and you bring the water element through you, set it up to the crystal grid. Same thing with magnetism. Those are the first two steps. Water and magnetism create an electrical field. The other thing I do with the crystals is I alternate male, female. I create polarity. If it's an odd number, there's certain crystals that are neutral. Clear quartz is neutral. So an odd number will have one that's both or either. So that keeps the energy moving. So when we activate water and magnetism, then you can feel the energy start to move. And I've had people almost pass out when the grid starts to turn on. So then we ground it to the earth. We open the sacred geometry in you, because we all came from sacred geometry, the single egg that split into two and became, I don't remember the name of it. Oof, I've been driving all day. So we came from a sacred geometry that literally created the flower of life in us. And so when we activate a flower of life above us, then another frequency turns on So I do 5 of those, and then we talk about the sacred geometry that you picked. And then I say, what do you want to create with this? It's almost the last step. And then you'll say your intentions. And then once it's open, after you say your intentions, I'll open the 4 directions, and then I'll protect the circle, because I built these for a number of psychics, and they're like, do you have any idea what you're doing here? You're opening literally a portal to all the dimensions, and I can see them when you opened it. She's like, you need to protect these better. So she taught me how to encircle in white light, call in the angels, the 4 directions, and literally ground the building and protect it. And then the grid acts like a vacuum, sucks out any negativity that's not part of your higher self, literally pulls it through the grid. And then I tune it to the violet flame, Saint Germain. Everything gets transmuted back into love. So the only thing that can exist in the building once the grid's open is love.
Wow.
That's cool.
That's incredible.
It is. It's useful. And people love it. And then your intention. So I encourage people to talk to it. Like even in my van. So I'll be out there and I'll be like, oh man, I had to fix something in my van that's thousands of dollars. And I need to manifest a couple grand. So I'll say, Crystal Grid, please help me manifest $2,000 this week. I need to help pay for this so I can stay on the road. And literally I'll get a call, I'll get an email from people that are like, can you take care of this? Can you send me this person wants a crystal grid where you are? Or I'll be in a town, like Julie would say, Robert's here, he builds crystal grids. It happens in Boulder and Tulsa, and then a bunch of people pile on and I can make the money.
Right.
And literally, so that's how the manifestation happens. You can do it with healing and anything you want to manifest and create and amplify. So it's like an acupuncture point on the energy grid of the earth, and it literally broadcasts through your energy field. So you don't ever leave them behind. You have to cut it. There's a way to close it. Take them down and take them with you when you move, and then put them back up. Call me, and I'll do the ceremony with you again, and we'll set them up again.
You can do this remote?
Yep.
You don't have to be in the location?
No, I've sent the kit. Like there was someone in Switzerland that was in Miami. I have tons of them in Florida. That's where I started. So
yeah,
almost everywhere in Florida, and then it just branched out. I just built one in Maine when I was in Maine a week ago for someone there. But the one in Switzerland, she saw him. She's like, she got a hold of me on WhatsApp and said, I saw these in Miami. Can you send me 1 or 2 of them? I want to put them in my house and in my meditation studio. Like, yep, what are your numbers? She sent me the numbers. So I made her a package. It showed her, there's a little grid I use that lays out a perfect 9. Like it's just a point. It's like a template you put on the ceiling. And then you tape that up there wherever you want the grid to be. It shows you 9 equal points. Then I give them a rope with the increments of Stonehenge, which is called megalithic yard. And then you put that rope up there, and then you put these little points on the ceiling after you line up with the template. And then you put a little hole and a hook in the ceiling, and then I sent her the crystals, and I told her, put them in this order, male, female, male, female, male, female. They get it up if they're not near me, and then I call them and we do a ceremony over the phone.
Huh.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's cool.
I'm going to be interested. That's why I asked.
Does it matter where in your home or business that you place it?
Nope.
Okay.
So
I encourage it to be in the bedroom, or if it's in a yoga studio, visible, so you can tell people it's there, and literally anything you want to let go of, let's let it go, because this will transmute it back into love. Anything you're going through, you don't have to say it out loud, but just let it go. And it's built there. It's like a vacuum. It's like, that's why yoga studios like it, meditation studios love it. But people, individuals, I encourage the bedroom. Because I had one, the first one I built in my house, I had a big shed ceiling and I hung them at a level. It was a difficult circle, but eventually it blended in and I didn't remember it. So I put one in my bedroom, so when I went to bed at night, I'd look up and I'd be like, oh yeah, I can set an intention for my dream state. I wake up in the morning, first thing I see, oh, there's my grid. I remember, I'm going to talk to it. So that taught me to talk to it, is having it visible.
But it will still function even if it's not.
It's functioning. You can be remote. You don't even have to be there. You can talk to it from here the one in your house and say something as you're walking down the street. Crystal grid.
It's programmed for you.
Yeah,
Like
it's
you
tune into your
build
energy.
it into your ceiling and then put a layer on top of it, and it would still do.
Sure, that's what I did in the van.
Yeah.
I hid them, and then someone finally said, you know, you talk all this, but no one can see one because you don't have a house anymore. Build one invisible in your van. So I put one over my bed, a little teeny crystals, because I don't have much room over the bed. And so you'll see when you look at the van, there's one visible, there's 3 invisible in the van.
Does the size matter?
As long as it's in, no, it doesn't.
Because I love big crystals. That's why I asked. I thought the bigger the crystal, the more the energy.
Yeah, let me show you a picture of one I built in Florida right before I left.
So as you're pulling that up, is this based on the size of the crystals that you would set the fee for that? How do you vary your pricing?
Pricing varies from how many crystals you have and how difficult is the installation. An angled ceiling and a wood ceiling that's like 12 feet in the air, you know, that's hard. I had one in a yoga studio in Boulder that it was all the mechanical system was coming through. There were open web joists up there. So I'd put the grid on the floor and then put a laser pointer, and I'd have to crawl up the ladder and go bink. There's one, and then move the ladder over bink. So those are a little more expensive. I would typically charge $500 for something like that. And then in a house, if it's simple, like $300 to $350 for it, and then it's portable. You take it with you, but once it's open, I mean, it takes me about 3 hours to do all the work and then everything I did to get the pieces to offer you, you know. So that validates the cost, and then I work with people if they need to make payments. I want everyone to have it, to have something like that to tune into and believe it, because what I've experienced is that when I've had a couple people that didn't know how to speak what they wanted. And that freaked me out. It didn't freak me, but I was just like, wow, people are so controlled now, they don't know how to manifest, say, I'm creating this, you know? So when we opened it, there was only one person that wouldn't do it. I said, well, you can do it when I'm not here, but for now, here's what I'm going to open for you. Here's what I'm going to wish for you, is that you use your voice, that you're able to tune into your true energy and your purpose for the earth. And then when I leave, you can talk to it because it's open, but take it down. Close it before you leave if you move. So I don't know if that's helping.
Can you connect multiple people to one grid?
Sure, because I've done it with families. I've had.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, and even in Florida, I built one outside of what are the Freemasons?
Yeah.
The Freemasons are a deep, strange group. My grandfather was a Freemason. They were the Knights Templar, and then they kind of got hijacked because they keep secrets. Now I don't know whether to trust them or not, but there was a group in Florida called Gratitude. Julie, that's where I met Julie. And it's in Gratitude, which is a leadership and a program to expand yourself. They build a project as a group, if you're making it to part 3 of Gratitude. And they hired me to build a crystal grid right across from a temple. What did I just say the word is? I'm starting to lose. Freemason temple. So I went in, and the guy saw me building it, and he gave me a tour of the Freemason temple, and they're creepy inside. There's skulls and there's altars with skulls and all kinds of blood offerings, and I was just like, and there's 3 pillars. It's dark energy. Freemason, yeah. So I built this right across the thing, and we did an opening with an entire crowd of people where they repeated this after me, and we all opened it. So that Freemason temple had no chance.
Oh, wow.
Toast.
That's incredible.
That was in Lake Worth, Florida.
You transmuted it?
I did.
Oh my gosh, incredible.
So groups of people can open them. I do them with families. Like sometimes a couple with kids will hear about this, and then I'll go, like I did one in Jupiter. This woman called me while I was driving back in November, and she said, I've seen your grid for years. Can you put it in? We have bought a beautiful property. We're building a house. Can you build it into the floor? And then we have a barn that we're turning into like a little ashram. Can you build it in the floor there? I want these numbers. And I did it. And then we opened it with the husband and the wife and the children. We all did it together. So they all put their intentions. They all know it's there. And they work with it.
It's phenomenal.
Hi.
So I'm going to wrap up this session so we can go outside and do a little filming of Robert's
Oh.
band.
I don't know if it's camera ready, but okay.
Oh, he'll just do it. We can always edit it. But
I've
for
been
those of
camping.
you on the United Network News, thank you for joining us on our lovely visit with Robert and all of his amazing talents.
Thank
We're so
you.
glad to have met you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good